Hello, Slicey Dicers. This is Brian with another knife review for you. Not this one. Not this one. We're not reviewing the CRKT Pilar again. This is the Blade HQ exclusive version with the carbon fiber on one side and the 12C27 on steel, the highest end one you can get. An awesome design by Jesper Voxnaes. Just a great designed little knife. It is the most comfortable little big knife that I've ever held. I love so much about the Pilar, but like many, I wanted something better. I was willing to pay a lot more for something better because the design is just so good, and this is just not that great of materials. The base one, this one's $50. The base one for like 25 is just, it's a 8CR13 and full steel and very heavy. This one's still pretty heavy even though it's got some carbon on it. We wanted something better. And even though there are always rumors of more Pilars coming, who knows when that'll ever happen, if it'll ever happen. But in the meantime, Jesper Voxnaes has designed something that I think is a better Pilar. That's kind of my first impressions of this knife. This is just a first impressions review. I just got this knife today. I've been carrying it around all day, flipping it, playing with it, tore it apart, put it back together, cut some stuff. This is just my first impressions. But what it is the Vox Suru. You may recognize this knife, not exactly in this form, but in a carbon fiber Framelock and M390 steel. It won the overall Knife of Bladeshow 2018. It won the overall award, the biggest award you can get, because it's a super cool design. This is the aluminum Framelock version with N690. These retail for about $160. The carbon fiber one is not available yet. I think it's going to be shortly. It is starting to pop up on websites as email me when available. So I'm sure it's going to be available within the next couple months, maybe by the end of the year. The retail on the MSRP is $200 or $349. So I'm guessing, just wild guess, it's going to be like $280, something like that for the carbon fiber M390 version. This is much less expensive. This is obviously probably the version they're going to sell the most of. And it's the first one that came out, so it's the one that I nabbed because I wanted it. As you can see, again, that's just first impressions video. As you can see, though, a lot of similar things ergonomically to the Pilar. It's got that nice, big, generous forward finger choil. This shape here is fairly similar. It's a bit more edgy on here. Fits in the hand. It feels kind of similar to a Pilar. It feels a bit beefier, maybe, but in a good way. But yeah, there's a lot of the things I love about the Pilar, you're getting on this with better materials. N690 doesn't blow my socks off. I mean, I'm not like, wow, N690. It's basically like equivalent to, Bowler's equivalent to kind of VG10 is what people say. I have had a couple other Vox N690 knives, and I will say it holds an edge better than like Spyderco's VG10. Probably you're looking more at like the way Kaiser does their VG10. It's kind of about that same quality, maybe a little bit better. But it's not a bad steel. It's just nothing that really blows my mind. But it is really lightweight, 2.5 ounces, which doesn't sound that light for a knife this size. But it's pretty light for a knife this size and this beefy. You're looking at the other knives in this same size class are usually much heavier. In this kind of small, little big knife category are much heavier. Let's do some stats before we get too much farther. I'm starting to already digress a bit. We have an overall length of 5.83 inches. You have a blade length of just 2.3 inches, so it's going to be legal everywhere. You have a blade thickness of 0.16 inches, and you have a handle thickness of 0.44 inches, which again is thinner than a lot of these little big knives are. Let's do a few little quick size comparisons. We'll do one of our usual Spyderco duals. We have the Para 3 here down below, and the Para 2 up above. So as you can see, it's a pretty small knife. Probably a more appropriate Spyderco to compare it to would be the Lil Native. And as you can see, it's very similar in overall size, overall length anyway, to the Lil Native. It's a little taller knife for sure. And lastly, we'll bring out that Pilar again, and one of my favorite little big knives, the Kaiser Mini Sheepdog. So again, very similar to these size knives. It fits definitely in this same size category. All right, talk more about this knife. As far as fit and finish and the look of it goes, I like the look of it. This is, again, aluminum handles, aluminum frame lock. It's Everything is distressed. You have this coating on the blade. They've obviously distressed it a bit. I think it looks cool as hell. I don't normally like dark blades, but I like it when it's pre-beat up. I'm not going to worry about beating it up anymore. I think it looks pretty cool. It also does come in other colors. It comes in a, let me look here and make sure that I'm not saying it wrong. Yeah, it comes in a green and a bronze. The carbon fiber one will come with a regular satin blade, but if you want one of the aluminum ones, your only choice is this black blade. The only thing I have problem with this finish is if you flip it over, it's drastically different between sides of the blade. That's not a big deal, I guess. It's fine. But this one side got a little bit more of the stone washer or whatever they use to do this. This side got tumbled a bit more than the other. But it's supposed to be imperfect. That's kind of the purpose of it. I'm sure no two are going to look the same. Again, I like the look of it. I think it looks pretty cool. I'm not usually a big fan of this many holes in a blade, but it looks pretty sweet. I can't really complain about it. And they do all line up, which is nice, or most of them line up anyway, where they can. Some of them can't just because, you've got lock bar on this side, but I like it. I think it looks pretty cool. Now, one problem I had with it, fit and finish wise, I guess you could call it, is it did come a bit crunchy. I had to take it apart, clean it out, re-oil it. I didn't have to adjust anything. I just had to get some gunk out of there. I can actually demonstrate how much gunk it was. This is the spot that I used on this rag to clean it. You can see those two little, there was that. That's a significant amount of gunk in there. Got all that out. Now it runs smooth as smooth. It is a very nice little flipper. Action's great. Detent's dead on. You have no issues with the detent at all. You can flip it. You can spidey flick it. It takes a bit of commitment to spidey flick it just because that hole is kind of small. You got to make sure you got a good amount of finger in there. Thumb flicking it, a bit more difficult, but I always seem to have an issue with this. But yeah, it worked fine that time. Sometimes I hit the lock bar on this, so you got to be careful that you're not hitting the lock bar. It's just such a small knife. It's a bit of a trick to avoid that lock bar. You got to make sure you're just grabbing the clip and not pushing on that lock bar. Ergonomically, mwah, it's really, really good. The only complaints I've heard about this so far, and I think it's from people who haven't even gotten them, because I'm sure this is the first full review on YouTube. I don't know many people have actually gotten them. People will say, oh, the clip's too long. It is long. It's long for sure. But the way it's angled not only works great in your pocket for getting it out of the way, but it falls perfectly, if you can see, right there in the kind of, what do you call that part of your palm? I want to say the crotch of my palm, but I'm sure that's not a thing. but it hits to a part where it's in the deepest part of my palm, and I don't feel it. If I really, really, really squeeze, and I'm trying to feel it, yeah, but just using this thing today, I just went out and hacked up some cardboard for half an hour or so. It's about all the time I had to do, and just cut some stuff, and it worked fine. I didn't feel like any hot spots. It feels just as good in my hand as a Pilar does. And it's nicer. That's what we all wanted, right? Something like that feels just as good, but it's just fancier. The edge is pretty good. It's not terribly thin behind the edge. It's a pretty thick blade, as I said, 0.16 blade edge. It's about 23 thousandths behind the edge. It's about as close as I can get it measured. It feels like a convex grind, and the Italians, this is an Italian-made knife. The Italians are very fond of that, so I'm sure that's probably what it is. But it slices really well still. As I said, I was out cutting some cardboard and stuff, playing around in the garage. Still does great. I can't complain at all about the sharpness out of the box. We'll see how well that edge holds up. I didn't cut enough to make a comment on that right now, so I will, though, before I do the full review on this. There will be a full review, and I'm sure this is going to appear in a comparison test or two. My concerns about it, this is the first aluminum frame lock that I've had. I'm glad the detent is perfect out of the box. I'm not doubting that the aluminum can handle this, because there's a whole lot of aluminum frame lock knives out there. The SR22 and stuff has been out for a long time. SR11, all that SR series. There's a bunch of aluminum frame locks, and I don't hear mass reports of failures, so I'm not worried about that. But what I will say is, being in the bike industry, that's my knowledge of metallurgy. If I have a stainless steel frame lock, or especially a titanium one, and my detent's a bit off, I'm not worried about taking it apart and giving it a little tweak to make it, less stiff or a bit stiffer or whatever. I would not do that with aluminum. Aluminum does not like to be bent that much. This is such a small little amount that it's bending. I mean, you're looking at just that little bit there. I think that's probably going to be fine. I'm not worried about it. And like I said, other companies have done it for a really long time. So I'm not worried about it, just something that I noticed. And for $160, I do wish the steel was just a little bit better. But Fox does seem fond of just using Bowler stuff, so, and this is a Bowler steel, so I get it, and it's probably fine, and maybe it will change my mind and make me love N690. I've never had a problem with N690. It's just for $160. I'd like to see some S35 VN or something, but they don't work in that very often, so that's that. But overall, I likes it. I wanted to get this one to see if when the carbon fiber one came out, it was worth it. My first impression is, yeah, I'm probably going to get the carbon fiber one too, because it ergonomically works so great for me. Again, the pocket clip, yes, it is long, probably longer than it needs to be, but it does carry really well. It's a nice deep carry pocket clip. I wish it wasn't painted. That's going to get chipped off, I'm sure, because I'm going to use the hell out of this knife. But I guess once it gets chipped off, it'll just match the rest of the finish of the knife. But I like the finish on it. I like the look of it. I like the ergonomics. It's everything I loved about the Pilar, but better. So if you have the means, I would recommend one. They were there and gone at Blade HQ. I don't know if anybody else has gotten them yet, but I'm sure these are starting to trickle into stock everywhere. So keep an eye out if you want one. The Fox Suru aluminum. Make sure you go ahead and check one of these out. I am smitten so far, but I'll get back to you in a month or two and see if that remains the same. I've been Brian. Have a good one.